Guess what? It's me again. I am not ready to stop reading, and the nice thing about me reading the story is I can go ahead when I don't want to stop, but I can record it for different days. So that is a perk of being the teacher here right now, guys. I wish we were reading it in person, and I hope you're enjoying it so far. So I'm going to pick up where we left off. It was pretty dramatic, right? Ivan decided to basically cause a scene. He was pounding his chest very loud, and Julia's starting to figure out that there might be a hidden message in his paintings. Finally, Julia and George take the pictures to the ring where there's room to see them all. An hour passes as they try to assemble my puzzle. Ruby's awake now, and she and Bob and I watch. "Ivan," Ruby says, "is that a picture of me?" "Yes," I say proudly. "Where am I supposed to be?" "That's a zoo, Ruby. See the walls and the grass and the people looking at you?" Ruby squints. "Who are all those other elephants?" "You haven't met them," I say. "Yet." "It's a very nice zoo," Ruby says with an approving nod. Bob nudges me with his cold nose. "It is indeed." In the ring, Julia pumps her fist in the air. "Yes!" she cries. "I told you, Dad. There it is. Home. Home. George gazes at the letters. He spins around to look at me. "Maybe it's just a coincidence, Jules. You know, a once in a trillion kind of thing. Like the old saying about the chimp and the typewriter. Give him long enough and he'll write a novel." I make a grumbling noise, as if a chimp could write a letter, let alone a book. "Then how do you explain the rest of it?" Julia demands. "The picture of Ruby in the zoo." "How do you know it's a zoo?" George asks. "See the circle on the gate? There's a red giraffe in it." George squints and tilts his head. "Are you sure that's a giraffe?" "I was thinking more along the lines of a deformed cat." "It's the logo for the zoo, Dad. It's on all their signs. Explain that." George gives her a helpless smile. I can't begin to. I'm just saying there has to be a logical explanation." "Look how big this is." Julia puts the last piece of Ruby's right ear into place. "It's huge." "It is definitely large," George agrees. Julia watches me. She chews on her thumbnail. I see the question in her eyes. She turns back to the paintings and stares at them, looking, truly looking. A slow smile dawns on Julia's face. "Dad," she says, "I have an idea, a big idea." Julia races around the edge of my painting, her arms spread wide. "Billboard big." I'm not following you. "I think this was meant to go on the billboard. That's what Ivan wants." George crosses his arm over his chest. "What Ivan wants?" he repeats slowly. "And you know this because you two have been chatting?" "Because I'm an artist and he's an artist." "Uh-huh," says George. Julia clasps her hands together. "Come on, Dad, I'm begging you." George shakes his head. "No, I'm not doing that. No billboard, no way." George looks back at Ruby and at Julia. He drops the claw stick. "The ladder," he says quietly, "is in the storage locker." So was your prediction right? Was Ivan trying to get the stuff on the billboard? It seems like Julia is convincing her dad to help her put Ivan's pictures up on the billboard. Let's find out. The next morning, he leaps out. He stares at the billboard. His jaw is open. He doesn't move for a long time. Who do you think that was? Mad human. A mad gorilla is loud. But a mad human can be loud too, especially when he is throwing chairs and turning over tables and breaking the cotton candy machine. Is it Mac? Is that who he's describing when Mac sees the billboard in the morning? Phone call. Mac is kicking trash cans across the food court when the phone rings. He answers it, red-faced and sweating. "What the?" he demands. He glares at me. "I don't know what you're," he starts to say, but then he stops to listen. "Who? Julia, who?" he asks. "Oh, sure, George's kid. She's the one who called you." More talking, with the phone to his ear. Mac comes close to my cage, eyeing me suspiciously. Yeah, he says. He paints, sure. We've been selling his art for quite a while now. There's another long pause. Yeah, absolutely. It was my idea. Mac nods. A smile starts at the corner of his mouth. Photos? No problem. You want to see him in action? Come on down. Have a look. We're open 365 days a year. Can't miss us. We're right off of I-95. Mac picks up the overturned trash can. Yeah, I think he'll be adding more pictures. It's what do you call it? A work in progress. When the phone call is done, Mac shakes his head. Impossible, he says. An hour later, a man with a camera comes to take my picture. He is from the local paper, the one Julia called. How about you take one of me with the elephant, Mac suggests. He drapes his arm around Ruby's back, grinning as the camera clicks. Perfect, the man says. Perfect, Mac agrees. Here's the picture of Mac and Ruby. I don't know if things are going the way Julia wanted them to go. Let's see. A star again. A photo of my billboard is in the newspaper. Mac tapes the story onto my window. Each day, more curious people arrive. They park in front of the billboard. They point and shake their heads. They take photos. Then they come to the mall and they buy my paintings. While visitors watch, I dip my hands in fresh buckets of paint. I make pictures for the gift shops and pictures to add to the billboard. Trees with birds, a newborn elephant with glittering black eyes, a squirrel, a bluebird, a worm. I even paint Bob so he can be on the billboard too. I can tell he likes the picture, although he says I didn't quite capture his distinguished nose. Every morning, Mac and George add my new pictures to the billboard. People slow their cars while they drive. While they work. Drivers honk and wave. My gift shop pictures now cost $65 with frame. The Ape Artist. I have new names. People call me the Ape Artist, the Primate Picasso. I have visitors from morning till night, and so does Ruby. But nothing's changed for her. Every day at 2, 4, and 7, Ruby plods through the sawdust with Snickers on her back. Every night she has bad dreams. Bob, I say, after I've soothed Ruby to sleep with a story. My idea isn't working. Bob opens his eyes. Be patient. I'm tired of being patient, I say. Interview. This evening, a man and woman come to interview Mac and also George and Julia. The man has a large and heavy camera perched on his shoulder. He films me as I make my pictures. He films Ruby in her cage with her foot roped to the bolt in the floor. Mind if I take a look around? He asks. Mac waves his hand. Be my guest. While Mac and the woman talk, the cameraman walks through the mall. He pans his camera right and left, up and down. When his eyes fall on the claw stick, he stops. He trains his camera on the gleaming blade. Then he moves on. The early news. Mac turns on the TV. We are on the early news at 5 o'clock. Bob says don't let it go to my head. There we all are. Mac, Ruby, me, George, Julia, the billboard, the mall, the ring, and the claw stick. Signs on sticks. In the morning, several people gather in the parking lot. They're carrying signs on sticks. The signs have words and pictures on them. One has a drawing of a gorilla cradling a baby elephant. I wish I could read. Any ideas what that means? I'm going to show you a picture real quick. Protesters. More people with signs come today. They want Ruby to be free. Some of them even want Mac to shut down the mall. In the evening, George and Mac talk about them. Mac says they're protesting the wrong guy. He says they're going to ruin everything. He says, thanks for nothing, George. Mac stomps off. George, holding his mop, watches him leave. He rubs his eyes. He looks worried. Dad, Julia says, looking up from her homework, you know what my favorite sign was? George says, which one? The one that said, elephants are people too. George gives her a tired smile. He goes back to work. His mop moves across the empty food court like a giant brush, painting a picture no one will ever see. I'm going to stop us there, guys. If you don't know what a protester is, let me show you the picture again. It is a person or a group of people that go out to protest about something. When we learned about the real story of Ivan, we knew there were protesters who had seen a video about Ivan's life and they got mad about how he was being treated and kept in a small cage. So they started to protest, which means they made signs, they wrote letters, they shared his story, all trying to get people to understand that something needed to change. So that's what these people are doing. So I will see you tomorrow and we will read some more. Bye, guys.